a discussion. Here I am with Jeff Brown. My name is Judah McNeil, and we want to talk about Morehead Politics. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Do I need to hit stream this to your audience? Because it's coming up. It says stream to your audience.
Say yes.
Okay,
no, I'm gonna. You can just say yes. It doesn't help.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, I just want to let the folks know I met Jeff at the Sports Center, and it was immediately we connected on just wanting to talk politics, and so we thought we'd take it to the airwaves. Jeff, you're highly vocal. I mean, when I say vocal, I mean you're posting stuff all the time. You're doing videos all the time. And I really appreciate how concerned, how involved you are with what's going on in Morehead politics.
Well, I appreciate that. I really never, I mean, no one intends on doing anything. Like I said, I started seeing inconsistencies in what was being said. And then, I had some people message me and they're like, hey, this is going on here. This is going on there, but we don't want to say anything or we're nervous to say anything. And I just feel this is 2026 that, someone's, I just got a thumbs up on my Facebook page that I'm watching us right now, dude.
Okay, well, turn it off, or else we're gonna get into a loop.
I'm gonna mute it. I'm gonna mute it.
Yeah. Well, so
go ahead.
The first thing that we started talking about, the first thing that you were sort of, giving me information on was the election between Lee Stiles and Jerry. What's his name? Jerry
Jones. Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones. No disrespect. No disrespect.
I just blanked out. So you were talking about how crazy it was, how it was just that Lee won by 1 point, but also the handling of it. Do you remember? Can you go back to that when we first met and you started talking to me about the election?
Yeah, I can. I don't even know how, I don't know what we were just, I don't even know how it got brought up in the gym. We just happened to cross paths, and I don't know if I brought it. The thing that raised my awareness when I started paying attention was the low number of voters on both sides, and total was, I believe it was, what was it? 1,522. So you got 761. Hey, I can do pre-calculus, trigonometry, but basic math, don't count on me for much. Okay. Yeah, 1,523 voters total, right? Which disturbed me, because you have 1,500 people, and regardless of who you vote for, you have 1,500 people deciding the fate of a city, within the city limits and outside. That's a county, but I think inside the city, there's something like 6,000 registered voters, right? Mm. So there, and then we'd heard that Lee had won, by one vote, and then the mayor filed his protest, because he said that people weren't allowed their proper chance to vote and were denied provisional ballots and whatnot.
Yeah, there was some evidence that suggested poll workers' errors denied two. It was two particular eligible voters, right? And I remember you telling me that day that this came down to a problem with the electoral board, the state electoral board, right? Or the county, or
it went up to the state, and then the state basically put it back at the feet of the county board of elections, stating, more or less, you need to do a better job in training your people, and we feel that there were some discrepancies. Yeah. And again, I'm not taking sides. I just think if you watch the the hearings, I don't understand how they came to that conclusion, because one gentleman stated, well, his wife voted with a passport, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had a passport at home. All he would have had to do was literally go home, get his passport, come back, and he could have voted. But that turned
That was one of the particular individuals that
yeah.
was the question here.
Have you not watched the hearings?
No, I haven't seen it.
They're quite entertaining, and not saying that in a humorous manner, to include that one of the county board of electors had to be given the definition of a legal term in reference to making a ruling on someone's testimony. And right there, I'm like, it should have just stopped right there. And then that's what I'm saying. I think that, again, I'm not the know-all be-all. I'm not a law professor by any means, nor do I profess to be. But if you're going to be sitting on a board, on a county board or a city board, educate yourself at least in the rules and the verbiage of what you're doing, because the decisions you are making are going to affect the people that surround you. And if you have to stop a trial of any type in the middle as some type of judge and have the attorney explain to you what it means, that's kind of a problem with me. It raises I guess a flag of job knowledge and understanding what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, lack of preparedness. Well, so now the election is set for March 3rd, 2026. Early voting, I didn't even realize this early voting involved with this. When does early voting start for this?
So early voting starts February. Oh, I got it right here. So early voting is February 12th to February 28th.
Okay.
And the early voting sites are Carteret County Board of Elections, Fort Benjamin Park in Newport, and West Park in Cedar Point, which I don't even understand, because those are outside the city limits.
Those are in.
So it doesn't make sense to me that why would you vote outside the city limits if you live? I'm not understanding the process in that, but
I think because it might tie in with the North Carolina Board of Elections. That's where one of their headquarters is, maybe, I'm thinking.
Well, you're right. It might tie in with again, I know that the primaries or the midterms are coming up March 3rd also, as far as nationally and statewide, right?
Yeah.
But again, why would anyone outside the city limits vote? Why would it be on a ballot that's outside the city limits? I don't understand that process. I think, again, here we're setting ourselves up for, what do you say, someone being able to question the results? I mean, one of the problems was they were turned away from their polling station inside the city limits, and perhaps having the knowledge of where you're supposed to vote, even inside the city limits, raises a question. But yet you're going to have the mayoral race on a ballot that's outside the city limits, you know?
Yeah. Well, do you think, though, it's going to be as close this time? I really don't think. I don't think, as you stated at the beginning, nobody really went out to vote the first time. But I think with everything going on lately, there's renewed interest. I mean, just look at us right now talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in it than I've ever been. People I've talked to are more interested in it. My family. The whole, and we can get into the Project Grandeur thing that got whole neighborhoods. I'm actually at my office here in Mitchell Village,
right,
where the whole community was pretty riled up concerning the park, taking the park away and that sort of thing. And so I don't think that it's going to be such slim margins this time. Do you?
I don't think so either. I feel that it's going to be a much larger number. I'm hoping we get at least 3,000 people to come out and vote. You know, I really do. And that I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be close. I don't know. I'm not a poll master that takes polls, and I just based, like you said, based on that turnout, based on the turnout at City Hall, based on the petition turnout alone, I believe that we're going to have a higher voter turnout, and that the numbers won't be in question this time.
Yeah.
Let's pray.
Let's hope and pray. Well, I mean, that was the second thing that came up. Honestly, the first thing, and you mentioned this earlier, and it is the first thing that sort of started piquing my interest, and when I say interest, it's like, because I think that's a big thing about Morehead city politics. One of the things old Roman polis quote, is that something about the interest of politics is you and I. They are interested in us, even if we're not interested in them.
Right.
And so it is in our interest to be involved. And it was when the taxes went up, is when property taxes just shot up. Everybody was just, gobsmacked by how huge a percentage the taxes went up, the property taxes and evaluations in particular.
Well, you see, I had a conversation with a gentleman earlier who has a home that's been here since, I believe he bought a home in 2003, and was talking about, it was great that property values increased. However, now I'm looking at almost $10,000 a year in property tax. That's a lot of money. And I think that, the way they presented it, and that was the other thing, because the way they presented it was, all it is a 6-pack of Bounty Quicker Picker Upper paper towels, and the utility tax is nothing more than a Snickers bar a month. And I'm thinking, that's how I'm going to touch. I joke around, but I'm like, I grew up poor. Bounty Picker Quicker Uppers were rich people paper towels, right? Like,
it still is for me.
I still don't buy them. Matter of fact, I don't even buy paper towels. I don't buy them anymore. I just use, I wash. But
yeah,
it's, to make a statement like that shows me in a way how out of touch, I guess, what would you say, the policymakers are, that decided that to say something. I would have came up with something different as an analogy, as opposed to what you can't afford a. Matter of fact, I'm curious. I'm going to look up here what a 6-pack, of Bounty.
It's like $12.
I don't doubt it. And for some people, that's gas money to get back and forth to work, for
absolutely,
a week,
yeah,
or through paychecks. And
but that's where the idea of, politics are interested in you, even if you're not interested in them, because it dawned on me. Well, it didn't dawn on me. My dad exclaimed one morning over breakfast we're having, they could tax us out of our property. Even though we own it, they could continue to raise the valuations to what, and then I saw a meme that said, what if your income taxes were based on what you probably will work next year? These hypothetical valuations, they're not, there are numbers that go into them. There are factors that go into them, but still at the end of the day, it's somebody just deciding this is what that's worth.
Right. And not to get into the whole debacle of property valuations either, that, even that, when someone sells their house, and they want to put a value on, I think my house is worth $400,000. Well, okay, that's what you think, right? But what's the real value of it? What's the assessed value of the property? And, our assessments, are they being inflated in order to support the taxes?
Value in itself, the whole concept of value, the construct of value, is such a relative thing, right? It depends. It relates to how much somebody is willing to pay. And that is in the future, right?
Right.
Like that isn't something that's already happened. Now we do have comps and stuff like that that
Right.
factor in, but it is so. Anyways, that led me to really start wondering what is going on. Why are they raising it so much? You know, we look at COVID and its impact on the world, but the county and the city, and
Right.
it doesn't seem like we. I mean, did we lose a lot of money as a city
So
because of the pandemic?
I think maybe so. I think, well, that's probably safe to say. And I've talked to a couple small business owners downtown that during COVID, that how much it affected small business owners, and they went under. And kind of again, why when I was bringing up, when I was talking about how I'm not against pay raises, but how two city employees, between two of them, got almost a $50,000 pay raise during like the height of inflation and the worst our economy's ever been in a city of 10,000 people.
Well, now
And
getting pay raises during inflation is not abnormal. It's dangerous, right? You get into what is it called? Salary inflation
right,
spirals.
right. But I mean,
Um,
did the average person in North Carolina and the average business, did their revenue go up 21%? Probably not, right? To justify, and then now you have 2025 when they implemented a new property. I mean, not too far off that with the property tax. And I was reading tonight in the I don't know, somehow this got left in my mailroom. I don't know who did it, but I get presents all the time. This is the
that's the
fiscal
budget.
year 2026 uh, Morehead City operating budget. And on
Yeah.
page 41, it talks about it talks about so debt. It mentions debt. It's got a little 3 sentence. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 159-55, the city's bounded indebtedness will not exceed 8% of the assessed valuation of the taxable, wait for it, property of the city. So are they, so I don't know, maybe I just have, you call it tinfoil hat, conspiracy brain,
Hmm.
whatever, but so are we raising property values in order to be able to raise our debt limit based on the assessed values of properties and the taxes we can bring in on that?
Hmm.
I don't know. I'd have to research that more. That's why if anybody knows, feel free to shoot me some information if you're a tax major out there.
That I mean that would make a lot of sense, really, if they. I mean, because there is the aspect of inflation. Just poor, everybody had more money during the pandemic. There's just gluts of money because nobody was spending it. For one, we weren't able to go anywhere, do
Right.
anything. We were getting money from the government. Many of us, I don't know if you did, but there's several families, not several, lots of different. If you were a family, you were getting regular checks in the mail.
I got, well, I get what I get from the VA. But I actually lost employment due to it because I moved
Yeah.
out to Tacoma, Washington to build condos with a buddy of mine. Hold on a second. Hey, you two, stop. My dogs, they turn into Serengeti jackals whenever I'm doing anything like,
I couldn't hear anything. It's fine.
and so it shut the whole project down.
Mm.
And, I moved across the country, bought a truck, all kinds of stuff. And it's expensive to move across the country and then move back across the country within a couple months, you know. But I
Yeah.
got the one, what did we get? We got the one like the COVID relief check that we got or something. Was it like $1,200?
Yeah.
I did get that. I got that.
Yeah.
Um, but most of anything I had went towards kind of just treading water, making sure my bills were paid, and
Yeah.
paying whatever bills you had and getting back across the country to kind of get set up. Because I'm originally from the north coast of California. It's just so expensive out there anyway. And I was like, oh, I can't make it out here on not doing anything.
Right. Well, what a kick in the pants, man, to get out there. And that was like in March of
That was
2020?
actually, I went out there, it was January. What was before January? Was it before? No, January of 2020. Because that's COVID, right? It was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working, and then
Everything was fine. January,
and
February.
COVID
What's
hit,
going on in
and then
China? Yeah.
yeah, and then COVID hit, and I was in Tacoma, Washington, and Washington, that was like the epicenter, supposedly ground zero. And hey, and then the next thing we know, they're like, yeah, the job's going to get shut down for a while. And I'm like, well, I can't afford not to work and live in Washington State. I mean, what I get with the VA is, don't get me wrong, it's decent money, but even out here, and I'm thankful for it, so I'm not complaining, because I know, and thank God I had that, because it gave me something that I could at least rely on, that I knew, well, you can rely on for the most part if something's not coming in.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, there was that. There were people losing their jobs. There was just a pumping. Trump was pumping money into the economy. There was just less places to spend it. So it does. We are in inflation, so it does track that a government would expand values, right? Because the dollar isn't worth as much,
right?
But it's scary. It's scary because it's bureaucrats deciding how much our property is worth.
Right. And like I
so,
was saying, that overall salaries didn't go up, right? It'd be different if everybody, hey, we started making more money also, but we didn't start making more money.
No, a lot of people lost their jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. And
like you're saying, like you. Yeah. Well, and so we want to, I think this would be a great place to have people on, talk to people, interview, but mostly you and I parse through the news and facts of things that are coming out, and really, I think it's a good place to sort of discuss things on a public forum, so that we, I don't know, kind of get out our frustrations, but also, I'm a firm believer that the more we hold resentment in, the more we hold in, sort of consternation of things that are happening to us. We're not victims, right? We're able to get together and talk through things. And it's through relationship. I'm a firm believer that the Holy Spirit works through relationships, coming from above and working between us. And so it's not a place, we don't want to be a place. And I do have to fight against the urge to
absolutely.
I don't want to be sit on the seat of the scornful, but I do want to look at facts, right? And I do want to hold people accountable, including myself and you.
Right. And that's where, and if anybody's even waiting, we got 2 people watching. Cool. Hey, thanks for viewing right now. I got some people I can see comment.
Leave a comment if you're watching. We would love to know what you think about Morehead Politics,
and
where we should go with this.
I'm not above, if someone has some information and they can say, hey, this is what I meant by this, or this is actually what's going on. And I'm not opposed to, because that's how I met Lee. Again, real quick, because I started making comments about, did city council make this and do they make that? And him and I started, conversating back and forth. And eventually he showed up at my house one night after he got off work on my front doorstep and knocked on my door, and he came in and had a seat. And I'd only been here pretty new. And of course, and I'm not even getting into everybody already knows he has a background, right? And I've heard things. And so I asked him straight up about that, and he sat here and he told me everything. And that, again, if you want to get into scripture, and, I'm faith-based, and, God even says, don't look to your past. And even that, who are we to judge? Like, we're no one to judge, we're no one to judge at all. And like you said, just transparency and truth. And kind of what seems to be going on here is just a microcosm of what's happening at the whether it's at the county, state, or federal level or national level. And there's like, we need to come together. I don't care if you're left, if you're right, if you're center. We need to just come together and have logical, freaking calm conversations, right?
Open, and it doesn't always have to be calm, right?
Yeah.
We were reading in church the other day about for the youth group I work with, our deacon Ian was reading the passage about how when Jesus was 12, he got left behind, right? And there was some
Right,
consternation that was caused with his parents,
right.
but doesn't I mean and it goes to show that there's, even in parenting and in politics, there is always going to consternation, butting of heads, frustration, working things out doesn't necessarily mean that we are in sin. It doesn't mean we're in sin
Right.
automatically. It means we're working things out, and it's important to work things out, bring things out in the open. And we've got Loretta Guthrie watching. She says, speaking of Morehead, is the budget available for the citizens to see? That's a good question. And yes, it is. You got to do a little digging. You have the budget, right, Jeff? But I think it's available online as well.
So again, I don't know how I came home one day from the gym and this was sitting in my mailroom. So I was like, oh, that's cool. If you get online,
you to make 50 copies of that.
I don't even, dude. I was talking about budgets. I was looking at this thing. It's high dollar, man. I was like, wondering what the budget was to print those bad boys. But
money well spent.
You can get on, and there's like an abbreviated version of it. And then if you get onto Morehead City's website, you can request public records information, and the PDF version is free. And
yeah, Loretta, if you go to moreheadcitync.org, and there search for annual budgets or new budget, you'll be able to find a lot of information. In fact, Morehead City as a entity tries to be, or at least purports to be, transparent. Now, we all know that politics and transparency, there's always a specter of transparency, but as even in families, you don't want to be completely transparent. So there is sort of a gray area of transparency. Loretta is leaving some comments. She says, do we operate for a profit or nonprofit status? Well, that'd be a not for profit. Yeah.
Well, it's government. So the government can't be a nonprofit organization. They're not like a 501c3.
Well, they're a government. It's like a not-for-profit, though, in the sense that they are not
supposed to be.
They have their budget isn't to create a profit.
Right.
Who decides?
Go ahead. Sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead.
She said, who decides the tax base? Well, it's well, how would you? Is it the board that actually does that?
Well, as far as how do they decide what taxes they're going to raise based on what the city budget is? Yeah, they go through the budget, and they decide, oh, we're going to need X more amount of dollars next year, and we don't have the revenue from whatever revenue streams they have coming in to generate, and say, well, we're going to have to raise taxes to bring in that extra revenue.
Yeah.
So that the city council votes on it. It's proposed, I think probably, I'm sure everybody's involved, the city planner, the city attorney, the city manager, all of the city administrators that have to do with finances and stuff like that are, probably given their reports and what they believe. And then you probably have, your heads of your administrators for your, like your fire chief and your police chief, and everyone comes in and, hey, I'm sure it's a conglomeration of people.
Yeah. Well, there's the county tax assessor. There's the board of commissioners, the state oversight, the appeals process. There's a whole machine that there isn't one person. And to her point, I shouldn't have said that earlier, where I say there's, that it's just a bureaucrat deciding how much my property is worth. I think that's an oversimplification. It really is more of a large, machine that decides that. It is a process.
So
Um,
right here, what I've researched and what it says, the tax base in a city is typically determined by the local government authorities, which assess the value of properties and economic activities within their jurisdiction. This assessment is used to calculate the total value that can be taxed, influencing the overall tax liabilities for residences and businesses. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah. So it's the government, it's the people in our city government that decides it.
Yes.
But there is oversight by the state and that kind of thing. Now, one thing that I didn't know. Did you know that there was sort of not a scandal per se, but there was huge problems with how our government dealt with the hurricane distributions back after Florence, and I think there's Florence and something else.
I've heard some scuttlebutt about that. And
so
again,
we do have there is some history that that we should be aware of. It's not like our government has always been spotless. And
I think that honestly, I think you're being generous and kind with that statement, because as of lately, I would say that they're atrocious with spending our money and the lack of responsibility for accountability. And if you look at the federal level, I mean, they can't even figure out where money's going, and
in general, politics is not, politicians, the political apparatus is not where you want to invest your money, right? Nobody thinks, I just got a big inheritance. Can I give it to the government to take care of and get a good return?
No, don't do that. I use the building that I live in for an example, because after Florence, we got a $600,000. Now, I wasn't here in this building, but I was in North Carolina. I was actually living on Carolina Beach. They got a $600,000 insurance payout, right? And when I moved here, we needed some work done. And I asked the HOA, I said, well, where are the records of who did the work? Well, we don't have them. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have the records of $600,000 worth of work that was done to this building? And that's just a problem is, in general, when so much money is involved, you would like to say that everybody's going to be upfront and honest about it. And you just, I don't think you can leave it in the hands of just one or two people. You need a genuine committee to track the money, to checks and balances for that manner, that's going to follow the proper procedures. And legitimately, and especially when it comes to the city level, that they're going to be transparent about it, and I think that's one of the big issues. And I have a lot of people that are messaging me, and asking like, well, where's the money been going? What have they been doing? Like, what's going on? Where, and I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't here, but that's a good question that I think that it needs to be there. I mean, again, I'm not all about just wasting taxpayer money, but I think that a legitimate independent forensic audit, probably for the last 10 years of the city, and exactly where'd the money go, who'd it go to, what projects were paid, how were they paid, everything that goes along with it. And if they say, hey, everything was on the up and up, or it looks like there's where money was wasted, and here's where some money was wasted, or, I understand that, not every project comes to fruition, but there's money that's spent on planning and developing it, right? And, you can use project grandeur for an example, of which I requested, okay, so who approved for the spending of the architectural 3D renderings, the 13 renderings from the
exploration? You're talking about the exploration? Yeah.
Well, if that's what they want to call it, whoever came up with the idea and said, well, okay, so who approved you to spend that money to have the architects actually go ahead and produce those renderings. How much did that cost? You know, where did it come? What fund did it come out of? You know, what was there a city council meeting where they sat down and said, hey, okay, we're going to go ahead and approve you to spend X amount of dollars and hire this architect company and have them do 13 renderings of Project Grandeur. And it's stuff like that. Is it minuscule? Is it minimal? Yeah. But then you go down
in
the street.
Comparison.
Right. But then I was like, well, I walk down the street and I see potholes everywhere, or, you know, traffic infrastructure that needs to be grossly updated, you know, up and down bridges. But of course now they're blaming that on North Carolina Department of Transportation. And I'm just like, so what? No one from the city could get with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, say, hey, we really need to fix Bridges Street. Like, it needs to be updated. And it's, so, yeah.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. And there are, I mean, that's what I asked, because, and that's the thing, is that I feel like we should also say that Jeff and I are here to ask questions, really. I don't purport to be any kind of expert. I'm just curious. And I think, Jeff, you're the same way, just curious and want to know what's going on with all this stuff. And,
well,
you know, and let's talk about it.
It is. And I think that a lot of people, and why I like that we're doing this, and what I said is that, again, I'm not a professionally studied, trained journalist, nothing of the sort. I think that we all watch the news on a daily basis, whether it's local or national. And you're sitting here going, why don't they just ask the direct question that we want to hear the answers to, right? You know what I mean? Well, one, they'd never get anybody to come on. They'd never get anybody to come on the news, probably. But that's the thing. It's like, well,
there's like a give and take. There's a relationship, right, that they have to sort of foster.
You know, let's create a platform, even locally, you know, and that's where I think you've got to start, where, you know, everybody, you know, it's like, you got to start with your piece of the pie, you know, and maybe we can set, maybe we can set hope for outlying communities around Morehead City and Carteret County in North Carolina that can say, oh, hey, look what they did out there. Maybe we need to look at the way things are done and start asking some questions, and, you know, doing away with old antiquated ways of doing things. It's 2026, and that, you know, a lot of people probably don't realize even that, just to give people base knowledge. Hey, you can call and, you know, you have a right to request public records. You know, you can do that, and which includes phone, like if they have a government phone, if they have a government email, if they have a government fax, anything that has to do with government business in relation. And now I know there's some sensitive topics and this and that and whatnot, but there's a lot that you'd be surprised that you have privy to as a citizen, that I think if everybody started maybe educating themselves a little bit more in that manner and exercising their rights in that, like we did with the petition, then they're seeing it. Then they don't have a choice. Well,
speaking of the petition, that was the last thing I wanted to cover, is because that's kind of what has really brought you and I together, is this idea of Project Grandeur, right? It started and help me understand this, Jeff, and whoever's in the comment section, you can help too. That it basically started with a David Elshard tuning in. Hey, David. Get it, fellas. Video spotty on the Dome Rep. What's the Dome Rep?
He's on vacation somewhere. That's why I think he's in like Aruba or somewhere.
Dominican Republic. Oh,
yeah.
In the Dome Rep. Oh, got it. Watch later. Okay, thanks for tuning in, David. But it Project Grandeur started because Lee Stiles, he brought to the attention that this was going on, right? Like, it started with him. He like revealed some recordings or maybe transcripts or something like that.
So
is that correct?
So now, yes, but it had been in conversation a lot longer than before what had been brought to the public's attention. There had been numerous closed sessions, and as you if you've been following what I've produced just based on public records, I mean, there's emails back to February of 2025 from the,
But I'm talking about when it came into the public like consciousness.
right. That was after the retreat. And, he went in because he was sick one day. Then he came in and said, yeah, I'm not okay with how we're doing this. And I'm not going to vote in favor of, quote, pursuing well, see, it's so hard for me to say because the way that they're wording it, it's just a fabrication of the truth. Because
Wait,
again,
who's they, and what do you mean?
I want to say
let's get
certain
into
city
details.
council, certain city council members and the mayor and the city manager and the city attorney, and not to go completely, I've already put everything out there where, they were acting like, well, so what are our options? Like that they didn't know, oh, the Purefoys, which they did have an email, but they'd already contacted them last summer in an unofficial capacity. But as far as I'm concerned, if you contact a citizen as a member of our city council asking them to buy the property on behalf of the city, that's an official capacity, right? And then, they were determining, well, what's the cost of it going to be? Here's what the litigation is going to cost, what would it look like, this and that, and who, they wanted to move forward with it. Now, what did moving forward mean? Did that mean moving forward with, quote, more research? Because as I can tell, the research was done, and they knew without a doubt that the only way that they could move forward with the eminent or project grandeur would be to acquire those properties through eminent domain. That's it, plain and simple. And that's why, he said, well, it's going to cost $200,000 per property in litigation.
Yeah. That's where there was a lawyer, I can't remember his name, who said it's going to be a fight, right?
Yeah, the city attorney. That's the city attorney Taylor, and that's when, yes, and then all the audio came out, and that's when I was like, what's going on here? And I started listening to it and making comments. And
now, was the audio released by? Who was the audio released by originally?
I don't know who released it. Honestly, I don't know.
Where's the first?
I don't know who got a copy of it. I don't know who got a copy of it or how they got a copy of it, but they did, and they released it. And to me, it's the best thing that could have happened. And maybe this is speculation, but if you just look at it from an objective point of view, had that not have happened, had we not found out and not petitioned, they would be very well, I think, in the process of beginning litigation to take those properties. And then go ahead.
The most, I don't know, the most surprising thing I think to me was hearing, was it Chris Turner or somebody talking about, well, the 700 silent voices are actually for what we're going to do, or something like that, or talking about how nobody was talking about this.
Right. The silent majority.
The silent majority were in favor because they weren't saying, because they were silent.
Right.
That was when my ears perked up, and I thought,
right,
there is something.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no one knew. No one probably other than the Purefoys knew. And there had been rumor, and I've talked to some people that own small businesses and was kind of like, hey, and they're like, well, we heard something like that. Because I asked them, I was like, hey, have you heard it? They said, oh, well, I've heard about it. Yeah. See, but I don't think that there had been any official really action taken by the city council as far as maybe giving them the idea that, hey, we're going to start going forward with this until it came out. And then they're like, oh, what's going on? And that's like you said, when the city manager was quoted, well, for all the 50 people saying something on Facebook, there's the 9,000 or 10,000 and 8,000 that are not saying anything, that I take that as approval. And it's like, yeah, that's not how it works, dude. Well,
I think it's pretty simple logic that silence is not approval. I mean, I appreciated the person that got up during the council meeting that said, she stood up for saying, like, that's a serious problem when you start saying that silence is approval, especially in domestic abuse and any kind of abuse situation. The person that starts saying silence is approval, we got to be, that's radar should be off.
The thing, see, so there's and again, there's language that now to my understanding, the city manager has law enforcement experience, right, and a tactical background.
Hmm.
So I know that there's kind of a saying in the law enforcement community where if they're arresting someone and they don't say anything, it's basically like, okay, well, silence is compliance. Like you're going to jail, right? You're keeping your mouth shut. I get it, kind of in a
Well,
way.
but what? No, I mean, no. We have a
Well,
law, that we're afforded silence in case
right,
we,
exactly.
in case we incriminate ourselves. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're sort of running out of time. Did you have
That's
anything
fine.
else that you wanted to hit before we sign
So
off till next week?
real quick, and I know we just tapped on it, but I'll read what I wrote because that's when he said that. This is what I thought of. And
Okay.
again, so it says in legal context, silence is compliance suggests that a person's failure to speak up or assert their rights can be interpreted as an agreement or acceptance of the situation, primarily in matters of injustice or legal proceedings. So, but it doesn't apply to this situation. And by all means, yes, it's 2026, and even that mindset that because someone didn't say anything doesn't mean they're in compliance. You know,
Okay,
um,
but I mean, okay, I will say though, to his point, uh, I was taking it to a criminal thing. If you are accused of something, then you do want to be silent. But to the
right,
point about sort of civic duty and civic involvement, it is true that if it's not that silence is assent, but if you're being silent, you're not participating, right? And if you're not
right,
participating, then you don't count. So it's like the people say that if you didn't vote, your opinion doesn't count, type thing.
right,
Now, I don't completely,
right.
I don't endorse all that, but um, it is interesting to look at it from the standpoint of the people that aren't saying anything don't care enough.
Right.
So in a
Well, and
way, they're saying, you know,
and it's like the lady that came from out of town and said, not everybody can get here. Not everybody can get to the council meeting. Not every
yeah.
senior citizen is savvy enough to use their phone to watch this and to listen. And so, no, that's well, I think we've made our point. I think he
Well,
got the message.
no, yeah, and I think though that is a very important point, though, that in politics, in political law, silence is a vote for whatever is being pushed, and
It's a
that
good,
is why we're talking, because that
exactly.
is dangerous.
It is.
That's how things. In fact, having um, been in charge of things before, it's like sometimes you want to slide things through. You want to slide things under the radar because as soon as people start talking about it, you're not going to get your way, right?
I would
And
say
I'm
this is
not
a
going to get my
perfect
way.
example. I'd say this is a perfect example, and exactly like you said, if anything, just to end, I think that's a great note to end it on to say, hey, it's 2026. It's not 1950 anymore. I don't know what that means, but it means speak up and be heard because
Yeah.
it will matter. And if you come together as the people should, and you do it, and you exercise your right civilly and in the civil manner and in the legal manner, there's
Yeah.
laws they have to listen. You know what I mean? They have to. Well, you would hope they have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. It isn't until our voice is raised that until that point, it isn't until then in how would you put this? Their power goes as far as our involvement.
Right.
And the less involved we are, the more power we give. Now, maybe we're giving power to good people, and that's possible. But in my experience, it's better that power is disseminated amongst many
I
rather than a few.
I agree. In the infamous words of Lord Acton, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jeff, for joining me
Thank you.
today, and let's do this again. And thank
Yeah.
you for we had Christian Corbett. Thank you for giving us a like, and of course Loretta with all that she was involved in
Yeah.
the discussion, and then David Elshire from way off over. I guess that's over some bodies of water, but from afar, he reached out and gave us Attaboy, and I appreciate that. I appreciate
Right
those
on.
kind words and
I appreciate
support.
it.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks,
Take
Jeff.
it
And
easy.
let's
Good night.
continue to
Let's do it.
let's dig
Let's
in,
dig.
and
I'm digging. I'm digging.
all right.
All right.
I dig you.
All right, man.
All
Take
right,
care.
brother. Talk to you guys
Take care.
later.
You too.
Bye.